Hello, I'm James Quirk, editor of Labels and Labelling magazine, and I'm talking today to James Bevan, managing director of consultancy group Vandagraf International, who is going to give a preview of his upcoming presentation at our Label Academy virtual masterclass on brand protection. Part one of the virtual masterclass, which includes James's presentation, takes place on Tuesday, March the 23rd, with part two a week later on Tuesday, March the 30th. This is the third virtual masterclass run by the Label Academy. You can register for the event on the Label Academy section of labelsandlabelling.com. The masterclass features a host of expert speakers talking about one of the most important topics in the label industry today. As well as James Bevan, attendees at part one will hear from branding and design expert Vicky Strull, Christina Mitropoulos of the American Apparel and Footwear Association, and Dr. Adrian Steele of UK-based converter Mercy & Labels. Part two features presentations from Dr. Paul Dunn of the International Hologram Manufacturers Association, Moshiko Levar from HP's Graphic Solutions business, Michael Welch of Avery Dennison's North America Durables business, Michael Bryce of INX International Inc., Keith Goldstein of Verify Me, Tony Fazhev of Avery Dennison's European NFC business, and Jay Sperry of Digimark. And if you can't attend the live event, all the recorded sessions will be available in our new Label Academy subscription service, which brings together all the content from our Label Academy books and virtual masterclasses, as well as conference sessions from our Virtual Label Summit. Further content from future virtual and on-site Label Academy masterclasses and Label Expo conferences will be added throughout the year. James Bevan founded Vandagraf International in 2002. He has more than 40 years of experience in the labeling, packaging, and logistics markets, and his company has particular expertise in the areas of brand protection, anti-counterfeiting, logistics, RFID, security printing, and packaging and labels. James, thank you so much for talking to me today. Please could you start off by introducing yourself and Vandagraf International?
Well, good morning, James. It's nice to be here. So Vandagraf has been in business since 2002, and we've, as you said, specializing in brand protection and related topics. We have a rather sort of international footprint, and we carry out various kinds of consulting work, or two specifically, as a single client consultancies, for specific clients, and we also do multi-client reports, and we are actually currently engaged in preparing one on brand protection in the Asian markets, but we can come back to that a bit later.
Perfect. I've seen the presentation that you will be given the week after next, March the 23rd. It looks fantastic, lots of really interesting information. Could you give a little summary of some of what you will be talking about at the virtual masterclass?
Well, we've been involved in brand protection for, say, 15 or 20 years, going back quite a while. And so it became a little bit, it sort of slipped off the radar a little bit for people, but in some years ago, but it's suddenly come rather sharply back into focus in recent times. And there are three very specific drivers that have propelled it forward. And of course, the online shopping boom has a major impact. And it's kind of interesting to see what are the ramifications for the labeling industry. There's also, in the last year, COVID has come into play, as we all know only too well. And the lockdowns have driven people to do more online shopping than they were before. So that has kind of accelerated the move towards online shopping. And the key thing there is that traditionally, the consumer could examine the package before purchasing, but with online shopping, you can only see the packaging once you have purchased. And of course, the ramifications are clearly significant, and this is a topic of ongoing discussion. And the other thing, of course, with COVID is that there's a huge element of counterfeiting COVID-related products. If there's a scarcity of a product, it's wide open for counterfeiters, and COVID fits right into this, whether it's the vaccines themselves, of course, which is probably the most important thing. But there's also all these personal protection equipment and masks and syringes and you name it, anything that's to do with COVID, because there's such a high demand, it's very vulnerable to counterfeiting. And the third driver is there's been a big change in how counterfeit goods are shipped around the world. Traditionally, large cargoes of counterfeits were traveled by ship, whereas in recent years, a lot of it has switched over to mail and courier, small packages, which are perhaps easier to intercept, but there's so many of them, an awful lot gets through. And so these three things have really changed the dynamics of the industry. And at the same time, counterfeiting has been growing at a tremendous rate. According to the OECD, counterfeit and pirated products are around $510 billion annually. That's actually the 2016 figure, which is the figure, the most recent OECD figure. And this represents over 3% of world trade. To which one might add that actually, because of the way OECD do the research, that's based on customs and seizures, which only applies to counterfeits that are internationally traded. Therefore, any domestic sales of counterfeits are not included. So it would not be unreasonable to really double that figure. Plus, the fact that there are also those seizures, which by law enforcement are the main basis for these numbers. There's a lot of B2B type transactions. And for example, microchips, which really sort of come under the radar in these numbers. So we are talking about very large numbers, and it's growing. So back to you, James.
An astonishing scale of counterfeit business, clearly, illustrating what a crucial subject it is for the label and packaging market and for our audience of label converters. The masterclass will highlight lots of the different types of technology that are being employed in order to counteract counterfeit goods and to secure the supply chain. You mentioned that you are currently working on a new report on the brand protection market focused on Asia. Can you provide a preview of what you've learned from your research so far?
Yes, well, thanks for asking about our new report. I think I'd start off by saying it's really impossible to do justice to the complexity of this phenomenon of brand protection in a PowerPoint presentation, although we will certainly be able to highlight the main issues. So we've decided to write one of our comprehensive multi-client studies, which is kind of stock in trade. And we have done reports in brand protection, a number of them over the years, and they're listed on our website. But it seems very timely to do another report specifically on brand protection, given some of the pointers that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And if you take China and Hong Kong together, which one needs to, we're talking about over 80% of the world's counterfeits are coming from this Hong Kong, Chinese Hong Kong. That's a big transshipment exit from China for counterfeits. So some 80% plus, depending on which figures you look at, of the world's counterfeits are coming out of China, Hong Kong. And Therefore, we've decided with this report on brand protection to have a particular focus on China, Hong Kong, and indeed the wider Asia region. But it will be a global scope nonetheless. Our reports cover markets, case studies, business opportunities, and also the state of the art of the technology solutions and so on. And we will, in due course, be producing a table of contents for this report, which will be available to interested parties, and a brief white paper. But this will follow on a few weeks after the event, the Label Academy event.
We've talked, and we've done this before, indeed, with a previous Vandagraf report on digital inkjet printing. You and I have discussed the possibility of Labels and Labelling publishing an extract from this new report later in the year when it's finished. So readers of Labels and Labelling will be able to get a sneak preview of some of the information being covered there, and no doubt it'll be a fascinating report. And yeah, very illustrative of the scale of the problem. It seems that the virtual masterclass in that respect is very well timed. Well, many thanks indeed, James. I thoroughly look forward to seeing your presentation on March the 23rd. Don't forget that anyone watching can register to attend the Label Academy virtual masterclass on brand protection, March the 23rd and March the 30th, parts 1 and 2. Go to the Label Academy section of labelsandlabelling.com for more information. And thank you very much indeed for watching. Thank you.
And thank you, James, for inviting me to speak today.
Thank you very much, James.